Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is episode 153 of Childcare Rockstar Radio, featuring Amir Zoghi. I am very glad that you're back with me here on the podcast today. I am Kris Murray, your host, and I have a great one for you queued up today, guys. My friend and mentor, Amir Zoghi, who I met through mindset and spiritual coach, intuitive coach, Kira Sherman, is with me today on the podcast, and I cannot wait for you to meet him. I first met Amir by watching his WTF signature talk, which at that time was a multi-day talk about 14 years ago when he recorded it. And he's coming to the States for the first time in a decade. He's based in Australia, and I'm in his inner circle coaching group, helping me with my life, my mindset, and a deeper dive into spiritual practices and intuition and all sorts of things that Amir teaches. And he's coming to the States, so I'm very excited to meet him in person in middle to late July. So he'll be here in LA, and he's doing an event. And we wanted to bring him in so that you could get some content from him and get to know him a little bit better here on the podcast. This episode will shift your thinking, and it will shift your life if you dive into the work. And so this is just a little taste of what that work looks and sounds like. And his event is rebranded as Limitless. That's the name of the event. And so I want to give you an invitation to go and see him for a one-day event where he'll be speaking all day and sharing his methods for how to become a limitless version of you. So the website where you can get our promotion, which is a 2-for-1 promotion just for the listeners of this podcast and people who follow me and us here at Childcare Success and the Kris Murray channels, is limitlessevent.live and then /CSS, which stands for Childcare Success. CSS, kind of, not CCS, CSS. So limitlessevent.live /C as in Charles, SS, Sam. And you may or may not need a promo code on that page to get your 2-for-1 deal. So bring a friend, bring a spouse, bring a teenager or adult child, somebody in your life, somebody in your family that you want to have go through this journey with you. As a 2-for-1 deal is what we're offering here on this event, the Limitless event. Promo code is SUCCESS. Limitlessevent.live /CSS, promo code SUCCESS. And so here on the podcast, Amir and I dive in on so many things. A lot of it is the nuances of what he teaches, some of the frameworks of how he thinks and how he lives his life, and how you can tap into a higher, deeper, limitless version of yourself in your day-to-day life, just, in our human experience. So it's an incredible episode, and I can't wait to bring it to you. We're smack dab in the middle of the beginning of summer. This episode is releasing on June 15th, 2023, and I hope that your summer is shaping up to be a fun, productive, successful summer, that you have a thriving summer camp going, summer program, if you have that, and or you're taking some time for yourself during this month of June. A lot of you guys take a little break, often a much needed break, to do some self-care and some relaxation and some vacation before you hit the ground running again in July and August and in re-enrollment season. So I hope that this podcast episode finds you in a really good mindset space. And if not, you're in the right place, because that is what we're talking about right here, right now in this episode. So without any further ado, let me share with you how to become a happier, more limitless version of you with the incredible Amir Zoghi. Enjoy it. Welcome, everyone, back to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am Kris Murray, your host, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to somebody very special today. His name is Amir Zoghi, and he is a mentor of mine and a coach to many. Amir, how are you today?
I'm amazing. Thanks, Kris. Thanks for having me on your podcast. I'm really looking forward to what evolves from this conversation.
Same, very much so. So where are you right now, Amir?
I'm in Bondi Beach. That's where I'm from, in Sydney, Australia, in case you haven't heard of Bondi Beach. But it is world famous. Most people know Bondi Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to coming back to the States. It's been a long time, 10 years.
Well, I'm excited to talk about your travel back to the States on today's podcast and introduce you to my audience and help everybody get to know you better. Amir is also coming on his trip to the States to Denver to be with us in our Empire Day. So for those of you listening that are my Empire members, you can look forward to a treat of having Amir as a guest speaker. So tell us a little bit about you. How do you describe what you do in terms of your coaching work? Because I know you also have your aviation work, but how do you describe what you do and how do you help people?
Well, I usually just, it's hard to give it a label, to be honest, because, but look, I give it the label of a mindset coach. And, I'm also an aerobatic pilot. So I generally take people outside of their comfort zones when it comes to taking people on aerobatic joy flights. But when it comes to mindset stuff, it's really helping them, transform their mindset. It's for me, either way, we're going outside of the comfort zone, whether it's you're coming on a flight with me or we're doing some work on mindset stuff. But for me, the mindset stuff, where it's different is that it's not about just changing the mindset. For me, I like to use the word transcending the mindset, because when we change mindset, it's not that it's not effective. It is. I mean, you could change and have a positive outlook on life rather than a negative one. That's going to be effective. But some mindsets, I think, I like to call it like a computer. The mindset is the program that we are running. And if you want to change your mindset, some mindsets require an updated capacity. Like your computer doesn't have the space to run that mindset. Does that make sense? You see that with iPhones.
That's a cool analogy.
And so for some of the mindsets that are really like mind-blowing stuff, like if you want to do big things in the world, become the greatest version of yourself, you can't use the same computer. You need to update the entire computer, because your space on the computer that you're running is limited. And I actually use the word space because to me, space is energy. It's our power. When we have, I always say we don't lack courage, we lack space. We don't lack love, we lack space. We don't lack money, opportunities, we lack space. Because once you expand your space, then suddenly you can run whatever mindset, whatever pattern that you like. So yeah, that's work I do. I help people to take them on a journey to deepen their connection, their relationship with the greatest version of themselves. And I feel that that's why we're here. We're here to become the greatest version of ourselves. And then we have tasks and goals and things that we want to accomplish. But really, all those tasks and goals that we want to accomplish for me, it's really about the person that we're becoming. So we have to, our capacity's got to grow in order to accomplish some of those goals and tasks. And look, accomplishing those goals and outcomes and, businesses and everything that we accomplish in our life is amazing. But it's not possible until you become the person that you need to become in order to do that, or in order to have that. It's really about the be, do, have principle.
Mhm.
Most people are so fixated on what I need, what I want to have, what I want to have, and then they get fixated on what I want to do. And you know, who you need to be is the highest level of frequency. That's what actually makes the change possible, and that's what makes the change last. Because otherwise, how many times have you made change? You hit your goal, whether it was a money goal, business goal, a health goal. You lose weight, and then you just put it back on. You make money, and then you just lose it. Or you just seem to be behind the eight ball all the time.
Yeah.
So all those things are a result of being fixated on what you want to have and what you want to do. Even purpose, and you got to stop me, otherwise I'll just keep going, Chris. But even purpose, so please interject at any time. When it comes to finding your purpose, people always are looking at, well, what do I want to do? I want to find my purpose. and
Right.
and for me, purpose is actually not in what you do. Purpose is actually, I mean, don't get me wrong, you find some level of purpose in what you do, but the greatest level of purpose is realized in who you are. And when you improve that relationship that you have with yourself, with the greatest version of yourself, you become purpose. And that sounds weird, so let me correct that. You become purposeful, and you become purposeful in everything that you do. You become purposeful in walking in the woods. Like, everything becomes purposeful. Your life starts to grow meaning and purpose in who you are. And you know what the difference between that is, Chris? You then give purpose to what you do rather than being attached or needing to gain purpose from what you
Yeah.
do. And that's the
Yeah.
difference.
So the thing that I think I went through early days, starting my career and getting the sense, the download, the feeling to start this business in a yoga, out of stillness. So my whole business was born out of a stillness moment,
Yeah.
which I know that's what it was meant to be true, because it was sent to me from a higher power, or just from within, from myself. But
Mm,
um, a lot of people struggle with who am I to become because of all of the day-to-day noise in their heads. And so there's the mind versus the body and the gut and the soul and the spirit. And so I think a lot of people are stopped from exploring out of their comfort zone or out of their mindset of lack or
mm,
just limitation, because of fear or their inner voice. And they are not diving into what you call the feeling or intuition and some of these higher versions of ourselves. So how do we get started on this path if we have no space, our life is chaos, we have kids and businesses and spouses and pets and all the
mm,
things that are keeping us from feeling like we can find any space? Like, what do you
mm.
recommend for people who just are kind of at their wits' end and they want to try to change their life?
Well, it's a really good question, and I understand there's a lot of people in that boat. But it really comes down to what you're tuning into. It's a frequency.
Mhm.
There's a lot of noise that comes from the outside, and it's not necessarily what people are saying about you, or it's the external noise. It's how you see the outside. So there's a lot of noise that's coming from your view and your perception of what's going on in the world. So a lot of that noise is actually your internal dialogue. And that noise is because you're tuning in to the outside, the external, our physical reality, which of course that's what we're here. We're here in the physical reality. So we're going to do that. But we are considered as human beings, aren't we? Yes. So we
Yeah.
have a human side, but we also have a being side. And most people get fixated, almost like what's it called when you what's the word I'm looking for? Um, when you get a clock in front of something, hypnotized,
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
word. They're hypnotized by the external. So they're only tuning into the external noise. But that's our humanness, right? And that's only
Mhm.
half of who we are, but I like to say maybe 5% of who we are, but let's just call it half, right? It's only half of who we are. We're also a being. And the being is our internal world. It's the noise that comes from the silence, if you
Right.
like. And like you said brilliantly, you tuned into that. And so it really comes down to what you're tuning into. And for me, if we are to evolve and become the greatest version of ourselves, we need to use all parts of ourselves. We have the humanness, but we also have the being. So the first step is just understanding that there is another part of me.
Right.
That's the first step. It's like because you're so hypnotized by the external reality,
Yeah.
and trying to fix, improve, change, or get rid of something. That's the role. That's the game, the pattern that becomes in the external reality,
Mhm.
and we forget about ourselves as a soul. Because when that's the soul
Yeah.
encompasses the being part. So it's about deciding that, hey, well, hang on, there is both part of me. There is a part of me that there's this noise that's being created from the external world, but there's also a noise which like it's a different type of noise. It's like we said, it comes from the silence, and it's a whisper sometimes,
Mhm.
and it's a feeling, or it's a vision. You see, we don't only see with these eyes. We have our physical humanness. We have our what we see, what we smell with our nose, what we taste, what we hear with our ears, and what we physically touch. We also feel without the physical touch. There's a
Yeah.
feeling. We also see without these eyes. It's called a vision. We also hear without these ears. And everyone experiences this. I mean, if you remember a dream, someone talked to you in a dream and you had a conversation and you had feelings, and you saw things. You didn't use these eyes. So we're not limited to the human
Mhm.
five human senses. There's also our sixth sense.
Yeah.
And it's just we've forgotten about it. Like
Right.
everyone knows about it. As a child, we knew it. As a child, we would encompass more of our imagination, and we use our vision, and we break all kinds of limitations and layers that are bound by our physical reality.
Right.
So it's everyone knows of this because everyone at one point was a kid,
Yeah.
and it's just remembering that it exists, and it's bringing your attention to it, because where your attention goes, it grows. So if your attention is only on the external, or the relationship you're having with the external, then that's the noise that you're experiencing. And some of those noises are wonderful, don't get me wrong, but there's also the time and space that you need to give to yourself
Mhm.
to be by yourself. And sometimes people are frightened about that because there's probably some unresolved things with themselves, so they don't want to stop, and they make their lives really, really busy to ensure they don't stop, because if they stop, then they need to address some of the things that are still sitting there, which will
Right.
never
Well,
go
and then
away.
there's validation in being busy. So, well, but they need me. I have to be there for my people, and and so I can't find time for myself. How could I possibly find 20 minutes to ponder or go for a walk? Because it's validating to have all of these pulls on me to be so busy.
Yeah,
So that's a way of filling up the space that you don't have to then dive in and actually do the work. That's your
absolutely. And
space.
a- and to change anything, you need to be honest with yourself and ask yourself the age old question: how's that working out for you?
I love that question.
Like how's that working out for you? Because you make yourself busy and you tell yourself the story that you're telling yourself, because you're just like, I just need to get there. If I can get there, then I'll have money. If I can get there, people will love me. And and the getting there doesn't get any closer, because as soon as you get there, it just moves one. It's like
Yeah, it's a myth.
when you're riding a carrot, when you're riding a donkey, you dangle the carrot in front of it,
Right.
and it's the donkey thinks it's going to get the carrot, but it never gets a carrot. And you know what the funny thing about that analogy is, that as soon as the donkey works out that, I'm not going to get this carrot, it starts getting hit by a stick. So you're then running away from things, running away from, oh, well, if I don't stop, if I don't keep doing this, people won't love me, or I'll run out of money, or so it's the carrot and stick analogy. But at the end of the day, it's sit in front of the mirror and be open and honest to yourself and go, how's it working out?
Mhm.
Right. So if this is resonating at some level, I'm assuming that at some level, at some parts of your life, it's not working out.
Right.
So then it's just like, well, how about we make it work out? How about we bring our other part of ourselves, which is the formless, which is the energy, which is the being, because we're not just human. We
Yeah.
are a human being. It's been said all along, and we've just disregarded or forgotten. And for me, my work is about getting people to remember and become familiar again with that feeling that resides within them, that moves them, that inspires them. It's where all your creativity comes from. It's where all your love comes from. It's where your inspiration, ideas, visions, that's where it all comes from.
Yeah.
And that's where the change takes place from.
So another way to phrase it is that the vertical dimension of being crosses the horizontal dimension of doing. And that's a way that Eckhart Tolle expresses it. But
Yeah,
we as humans always just kind of, I think we get trapped in all the doing, and especially
that's
the
right.
audience, oftentimes the audience that I'm speaking to, my clients, and this amazing childcare audience is very much the doing of serving others, serving small humans and big humans, but forgetting about the actual to set time aside to tap into our being.
You
Um,
know,
yeah,
I was going to say, my heart goes out to people who are all about serving, because whether you're in the spiritual community or a spiritual person, or you're in childcare, and it's like everyone's got the best in, or whether you're just a mother or a father, or we've all got the best intentions when it comes to using our greatest force, which is love, right? And then we make it about serving. But what you got to understand is that you've got nothing to serve unless you've put yourself first. And usually that sounds selfish, but if we go to the age old um, brief that you get when you get on an aircraft, and they say, in case of an emergency, if oxygen mask falls from the ceiling, place your mask on your face
first.
first before you help others, including your children. But what happens is, something happens in an aircraft, it generally, like if you're a mom or a dad, you're always going to try to help the kids first.
Right.
But you can't be of service if you're passed out. So you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help others. So you need to bring your attention to yourself.
Yeah.
Make time and space for yourself. And just in case people, sometimes I talk about space. Space is a big thing in my conversation, and sometimes people go, "Well, what do you mean by space?" And it's like, well, I say to them, well, "What do you mean when you say to someone, 'I need some space'?" Whether it's from your work, or it's a relationship, or maybe somebody said it to you, "You know what? I just need some space." What do you mean when you say, "I need space"? And what do you do when you actually take space from the very thing that was consuming space? Again, it could be work related, it could be a relationship, and you take space. What do? You go off by yourself. You normally sit in nature. Maybe you're looking at the night sky and looking at the stars. Maybe you go by the ocean. Maybe you go into nature and into the woods. What are you doing there? You're taking space for yourself.
Yep.
And, from a being perspective, that is an essential thing. Like, at the moment you don't take space for yourself, your attention goes on putting the oxygen mask on everyone else, because you're all about the service. You're all about, and it feels good to help others, but it doesn't last,
Yeah.
because your oxygen is going to run out.
That's
And
right.
and then you're going to be the person that's drowning in the ocean. When that person drowns in the ocean, they become really dangerous. You got to know what you're doing to save that person, because you go to help someone who's drowning in the ocean, they get desperate and they drown you.
Yes.
They pull you down,
Mhm.
right? You become that person, because now you're drowning. You've given all your love and all your dedication to everyone else, and now you're drowning. And all you're doing is you can't help people. In fact, you need help, right? So putting the oxygen mask on your face first is giving space to yourself, making time. Just like you make time for anything that's important for you. When I had kids, life changed, as we all understand it does.
Yep.
And, first thing in the morning, was the time that I would generally go out and, I'm on the beach. So I would go on the beach, watch a sunrise, and I would give time to myself. I would sit down and reflect and ponder and, meditate, whatever you're into, right? But when we had kids, I stopped doing that. And I could just feel things tighten up. My creativity was struggling, my leadership was affected. I started getting edgy and angry, and I realized that, when's the last time I actually sat down and pondered? When's the last time I actually went and watched the sunrise? And it was a long time ago. And I was like, but I've got kids. And I had to have a conversation with my wife and said, listen, I need these mornings to go for myself. And she goes, well, we got kids now. You don't have time for that. And it became like, I'm doing this. And because I knew I couldn't serve my family.
Right.
And if she didn't understand, then like it became a big fight.
Sure.
Which at the end it worked out because I actually did do it. But my point is, like, anytime I've stopped doing that, I struggle. And the people that are normally leaning on me, whether it's my family, I affect that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So important.
Yeah. Well, and I think the lesson there is that, for partnerships is you claim the time that is your power time. Your power time is the sunrise with your pondering. And then you can give the space to your partner, your loved one, for her to claim her time as well. And so you guys work that out.
Absolutely. I'm glad you kind of pointed that out because we did negotiate, and on Sundays is her mornings when she goes to Pilates and all that. So I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm not just this prick that.
So that is the perfect marriage recipe. I love that. So let's dive into a question around your early influences. So how did you find or come across this path? How long have you been on this path, and who were the early influences that impacted you on this path?
It really started really young for me. I started when I was, from the age of like 10, 11, 12. I was really inquisitive, and I had these real, I don't know, let's just call them spiritual experiences where, things would come to me, and I don't, at first I thought I was afraid of some of the experiences I was having, and I would speak to my mother, and she was saying, "Don't be afraid of it. That they're here to help you." And it was just kind of weird, but it's I became really inquisitive about the truth. What's the truth? And so I started early on looking into religion. Like I read the Bible, I read the Quran, and and that's as far as I got into religion. I then realized there's this other world beyond that. It's not limited to that. Like that was I would call it a stepping stone to finding myself. And but yeah, it started there, and then my mum's been the one who's always been reassuring me to keep going, and you know um you know she started teaching me some things. She's pretty intuitive, my mum, and she started teaching me some things that at first, when I first heard it, I thought it was just outrageous, and it's really mind over matter things, if you like. And I thought at one stage my mum was just, maybe she's going crazy, and look, I finished high school, and then at that point I just realized, I need to go into business, I need to go make money, I need to go become successful. So I kind of put all that world aside. And for the next 6 or 7 years, I went and did that. And I had business failures, and I got on the verge of bankruptcies. And then came back from that. I never declared bankrupt. I bounced. And this was when I'm like 20 years of age. Bounced back from that. I had successful businesses, and I made a name for myself, if you like, in what I did. And there was still something missing, Kris. And I was like driven, like, this was a 6 or 7 year period of my life. And at the end of it, when I stopped and I was by myself, and usually it was like I would have a big week in my office, and I became a promoter and was promoting speakers into Australia. But when I was by myself, I was just like, why do I still feel like there's something missing? Now I've accomplished all these things, and all these goals I had as a young person. My teachers thought, always told me I'm going to be the failure of the grade, and here I am. I'm successful. I live in this beautiful home. I have boats and this and all this successful life, and and I'm like, why do I still feel like I'm not enough?
Mm.
Like something's still missing and something's incomplete. And I had other people who were really successful around me, and I could see they were on the similar, journey. And it didn't matter how many millions or billions, everyone was feeling the same.
Yeah.
And that's when I went, all right, there's something more to life than, just becoming successful. And I went back to my mum and I went, all right, what do you know? And that's where the journey really started to drop in. And that was probably, a good, what am I now? Probably, I don't know, 15, 17 years ago. And that's when I really started. And it was in my blood, and I just went back to and pick up where I left off. And, you mentioned Eckhart Tolle. That was the one book that I actually read. It was The Power of Now and A New Earth.
Yeah.
And I started there. And after that, funny enough, I haven't read anything after that. That's a
That was all you needed.
it led me back to where I already
Sure.
got to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first time that I saw you was on a video of watching your course, the WTF, which stands for Wisdom,
Yeah.
Truth, and Freedom.
Yeah.
And I got that access through working with Kira Sherman, who has been on
Yeah.
this podcast, and many of my clients have met Kira. And it blew me away, quite frankly, watching the WTF, watching 28-year-old Amir or something, whatever you were at that time.
That's exactly. I think I was
The
28. Yeah.
the presence that you had, the
Mm.
presence on the stage that you had, the surety, the certainty. And one of Kira's favorite quotes is, "Whoever has the most certainty wins." Around their path, around love, around truth, around wherever they're headed, around the feeling, the certainty of your full realization of where, what the feeling is telling you. When you're certain and with your whole heart, like you've got it. And so you
That's
had
right.
that certainty. It was so cool to watch that for the first time. I was like like, wow, this is amazing. And it was very much a reference to taking the red pill versus the blue pill, and one of my
Yeah.
favorite movies, The Matrix, and looking at the world and the universe and life in a whole new way.
Mm.
And so now you're going to come to the States and you're going to do an updated version of the WTF called Limitless here in LA on July 15th. And unfortunately, I won't be there because I'll be at a Taylor Swift concert with my 18-year-old daughter that night.
Totally
But
understand that.
thinking of you and feeling the vibes, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your upcoming trip to the States. You haven't been here for a decade. And what is the Limitless as a newer version of WTF? And maybe you can talk about like when you first did your first WTF, or anything you want to share around this whole journey of being and doing this event.
So, well, look, not long after I, said to my mum, what do you know? I reconnected. I took the next 12, 15, 24 months even off, and I went on this sabbatical and really wanted to find myself. Anyway, I got to a point where I had this feeling that dropped in, and it's time to share this. And I was never a speaker. I would promote speakers. I was always the man behind the curtains, and I was in marketing and promoting. And I knew nothing about speaking. Like I'd never done any speakers training. And I thought, but you know what, I'm going to do this. And because, when you feel something, you're tuned in and you feel it with that feeling always comes the ingredients to, as long as you follow it, like there's the belief, there's the certainty that you're talking about. It comes from the feeling. It doesn't come from me as the identity as Amir, because me as the identity as Amir, believe it or not, is an introvert. You know, most people don't believe me when I say that, but take me to a party and watch me, right?
Yeah.
I'm an introvert,
Yeah.
right? But when it's time to share what I'm sharing, like it flows through me. Anyway, long story short, I'm sitting there, and back then the name of the program came to me, and it was called The Quest for Truth, right? And I wrote down the name. I went, that's what it's going to be called, The Quest for Truth. And I sat down to design this program, and days turned into weeks and nothing came to me. And I knew, like, I scribbled something on a paper and I knew that wasn't it, because it feels heavy, it doesn't feel light, it wasn't flowing. And I'm like, and I got really frustrated and angry with myself. And I went, why would I feel to do this? And this is like after 2 years of doing nothing, you know, and watching money disappear and all that kind of stuff, doing nothing, because I really wanted to realize this in myself. And I said, why would I feel? I had this argument with my expanded self. Why would I feel to do this and there's nothing coming to me?
Mm.
And the next words that came to me was, it will come to you when you get up on stage.
Mm.
Now, that was a very frightening concept. A, I'm not a speaker. B, I started to have imposter syndrome, because I thought to myself, well, who am I to speak? All these speakers have been doing all this training and then they've got degrees, or, you know, I didn't even finish university. I didn't even start university. I didn't even do university. So I had the imposter syndrome kick in. And the biggest fear was, what if I don't have anything to say? What if I run out of something to say?
Sure.
So, but of course, you know, long story short, I ended up putting together a group of people who I borrowed a friend's boardroom in Sydney, and about 10 people came along, and I didn't charge them anything. I didn't even know if I was going to have anything of value to add to them, but they all came to do this Quest for Truth program. And, you know, I started with good morning. You know, this is what we're doing today. And I had a whiteboard and a flip chart. And before I knew it, I got into this flow, and an entire day went by, and
Wow.
it just, and that became the very program that you're talking about right now, called the WTF experience. So the story of how it changed the name from the greatest kept truth to the WTF experience, which is a program that I started delivering all around the world. I was delivering it in a different city every single weekend. I was in the US at least once a month.
Mm.
I was delivering this. So that was over 10 years ago. And the name changed to the WTF experience because people in the quest for truth that were sitting there, they kept saying, what the, can I swear on this
Yeah, go ahead.
podcast? They would go, what the fuck? Like, and people were like, I'm like, and I would say, oh, you're having an aha moment, aren't you? And they're like, no, I'm having a what the fuck moment. Like, wow. Like, they would literally get their mind blown.
Yeah.
And as a joke, it just happened so many times. People would say it. And as a joke, one day on stage, I went, you know what? I'm going to change the name of this program from the Quest for Truth to the WTF experience, because that's what people have. They have these WTF moments.
Yeah.
And everyone joked and laughed. And then the next day I was walking and I was in my pondering, and it came to me, wisdom, truth, freedom.
Yeah.
And that's where the WTF
Yeah.
was born. Now, I've rebranded that now to Limitless, because it's something that I felt, and it's the same program, but it's going to be a little bit different, because I'm a business person. I'm an entrepreneur. I like to work with creativities and possibilities, and creating things, whether it's in business or of service, or so I just the Limitless was born. Actually, Limitless was born just before COVID, Kris. I don't know if I told you this, but just before COVID, I came up with Limitless, and I booked a tour around Australia. I had the venues booked. Wasn't yet coming to the US.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. So it never happened. So now COVID's definitely gone, and well, it's not gone, but we've managed it, and so it's time to bring it out. But the Limitless, I would get a lot of spiritual people who would come to the WTF, a lot of truth seekers, and I just my love was to work with entrepreneurs as well. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll still get entrepreneurs, and hence the name the change to Limitless. And it's not just the name that's changed; it's how I communicate it to entrepreneurial people, because I feel that when it comes to living your truth, there is this the feeling that we talk about is it's a knowing. It's your intuition is a knowing, and it comes from the unknown, right? And the only other people I know who have that ability to follow a knowing, an idea, and there is so much unknown, right? Is entrepreneurs.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
entrepreneurs have the ability to, there's hurdles, there's all these unknowns, but they trust their gut, they trust their plan, they trust their idea, they trust their vision, and they get their knowing from their vision. Do you
Mhm.
understand? So that's how the program has
Yeah,
evolved
that's
from.
cool. And we're the ones that also bring form from formless, right? We're
Mm,
bringing a business or an idea or a vision or a service, a mission, a movement, and all of that is what we're
absolutely.
creating. We're creating form from formless. So I love that.
I
Um,
believe entrepreneurs can change the world. Not the leaders that are in the world that are in leadership at the moment. I believe that entrepreneurial people with the right intentions can actually change the world.
yeah. So this amazing event in LA again is July 15th, and I wanted to bring it to the podcast because I know that many of you listen intently, and maybe you're looking for a new way of thinking, way of looking at the world, inspiration to be and think differently about yourself, who you are, what you can tap into in your energy and into your intuition, and all of those things I'm sure you're going to get at this Limitless event. And I wanted to bring it to our audience today and also have you guys just meet Amir. It's just an amazing human. And I'm excited, Amir, that you're coming back to the States and you'll be with us in the mastermind event for the Child
Yeah.
Success Academy and hanging out with our Empire peeps. And they got a taste of this whole way of being with Kira and
Mhm.
a year ago. And so this is a
Yeah.
great follow on to the journey. So with that, I'm going to give the contact info for the event in the show notes and elsewhere. And so, but I know that we do have a promo code for people listening. If you guys want to get a discount, you can use promo code success, simple word success there, which lines up perfectly with our brand.
Mm.
And so it's the journey of becoming. And that's what we've talked about today. A lot of it is becoming a better version of yourself, a more
Yeah.
in tap version that follows love, the true love of a deeper self, a higher self. And that's and space. That's what I've been working on, is trying to make space in my life working with you, and then tapping into what I love, and not questioning the how am I going to get there. I think that's,
Mm.
as humans, that's what we do a lot, is it's like, well, I would love to live on a beach in Hawaii and have a
Yeah.
big house and not be working, but that's never going to happen. So ha ha ha. Well, kind of diving into, but I would love that. So how could that happen? And not even in the mind space, but more of just like putting it out there and then letting the energy, letting the one do the work through
Mm.
oneness. So that's a more in-depth conversation, probably for another
Yeah.
podcast. But
Well,
uh,
that's a conversation we will have in the Limitless event.
there
Like
you go.
that's not even a conversation. It's an experience. You will have that experience.
Yeah.
And look, I believe because I'm also speaking for your group, we've given you a really huge discount as well. I don't
Yeah.
know, but I think it's a 2 for 1, right?
Oh yeah, it's a 2 for 1. Thank you for saying that.
Yes.
And
So if they put that code in, they actually get 2 for 1. So you're getting 2 tickets. So you pretty much bring a friend or your husband, wife, whatever, your partner.
yeah,
Yeah.
and our group likes to travel with a buddy, a friend, a spouse, a partner. So that's really great for our group. So thank you so much for the 2 for 1. And we really appreciate that. I'm
No
pretty
worries.
sure that Ben on my team, Coach Ben, is going to be at the event, and I think Kira will be there. So you'll have
Yeah.
some friends that you'll know, and LA, July 15th. So any final thoughts, Amir? I had you very, very short time today, but I just wanted to bring you into the podcast and have you tell your story a little bit. This has been amazing. Any final
Yeah.
thoughts for the audience?
My only final thoughts are, at the end of the day, like we've spoken about some things right now, and right now from listening to this, you're going to have a feeling. And I'm just letting you know, trust that feeling, follow that feeling. That's it. So if you feel to be there, doesn't matter what's in the way. Get yourself there. I look forward to sharing the limitless experience with you.
Yeah. Fantastic. I know. I wish so much I could be there, but I'll be.
Well, you've done it multiple times, and
I
you're so
have multiple times, but still.
multiple times, and yeah. So
Yeah.
at least you've done it.
Yes.
So
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Amir Zoghi, for being on the podcast today here at Childcare
thanks,
Rockstar
Kris.
Radio. It's been awesome. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We will talk to you next time. I know this has probably affected each of your thought patterns, thinking, innerness. And so go do something with that. Don't just let it, think, really dive into it and ponder it is my guidance. So thank you all so much. Thanks, Amir, and take care, everybody, and God bless. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I hope you liked this episode of Childcare Rockstar Radio. If you did, please share it with someone you know and help spread the word to your friends in our industry and on social media. Childcare business success is my passion, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. As a thank you for listening, learn more about how to grow your business and make more income with our brand new free quiz, the What's My Number One Income Killer quiz, exclusively for preschool and childcare owners. Take the quiz today at childcarequiz.com to discover what your number one income killer is and how to solve it. Take care and God bless.